Shyamalan, he has some wild dialogue. Like, he makes the characters say the most craziest stuff in the world.
I think that M. Night Shyamalan probably took his daughter to like a Beyonce concert and he was like, I don't get any of this. So then, and it's just the entire time M. Night is just trying to like figure out like what's going on in the concert.
We support original cinema in this house. All right, guys, I am so excited for today's guest. I have Marley Loves Film. He's on TikTok, he's on YouTube, he's on Instagram. He has the Real Lovers podcast, and I've been on his podcast. So, hey, Marley, welcome to Tea and Popcorn.
Hey, Megan, thanks for inviting me to, we've been mutuals for a really long time, like on TikTok, and I don't know, it's just kind of, it's great that you're on my podcast, and now I get to welcome your new podcast to the podcast world. So thank you.
Yes, yes, this was definitely a long time coming, and I'm really happy that I finally have, a podcast on my own. I've done podcasts back in the day, but I haven't had one solely for movies and whatnot, so I'm really excited for this new venture. But
Yeah.
anyway, Marley, so I'm so excited to talk about this movie with you. Trap,
Mhm.
you actually did a review on Trap recently on your podcast and doing a lot of Shyamalan movies. So tell me a little bit about that. Kind of give the audience a teaser.
Well, M. Night Shyamalan is honestly one of my favorite filmmakers, like working today, and really the first filmmaker that I really got introduced to, like as a young kind of like film goer, like early in my life. And we decided at the Real Lovers podcast to do an entire several months watching all of M. Night Shyamalan's films with a retrospective. After we saw Trap, we were just like, we need to revisit these movies just because there's been some time. It's 2024. His first one released in 1999. So I feel like there's enough time to in there to revisit his movies. So stay tuned to that. So
Yeah, I'm super excited for that series too because he's definitely making a bit of a comeback. He's made a lot of different movies and a lot of movies in really recent years, like back to back, which he hasn't done in a while. Like there was Old and then Knock at the Cabin and now Traps. I'll kind of give a little bit of synopsis about the movie. So, a man takes his daughter to a concert, which turns out to be an FBI trap for a serial killer. And actually, the man is a serial killer. So, you pretty much get that from the trailer alone. So, I didn't really spoil anything from that because there's definitely more twists and turns within that movie. So, this was a little bit of a fun fact that I found out, but Shyamalan pitched this as Silence of the Lambs, but at a Taylor Swift concert. Like, I think that's the perfect description for this movie. Like that's so funny. He wanted to kind of reference the Eras tour, which you could definitely tell the influence from watching the movie that it was very Taylor Swift coded. His daughter is actually playing the star. Her name is Salika, and yeah, she's a real life singer. And yeah, it's kind of cool. He's keeping in the family and whatnot. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like neutral on nepotism in this house when it comes to like good performers. So it's just like, hey, get your coin, girl.
yeah, I'm kind of on the whole get your coin girl as well, but also I know a lot of people like to pull the nepotism card as soon as they see it, but I'm on board if like for POC nepotism. Like if Shyamalan wants to
Yeah.
help boost his daughter's like singing career, like go right ahead. Go right ahead. It's like I she's a great singer and I feel like she deserves kind of like this rise that she's getting. Also, I just want to send just I don't know. I wouldn't call it a threat, but M Night, why did you mess up my Spotify Wrapped this year? Because Lady Raven all over my Spotify Wrapped.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. And she actually did a song for Old, but I'm like, oh, I should listen to that now. But
Mhm.
yeah, so
She
she's a singer.
she also I think she's also done a few songs for their Apple TV Plus show Servant. Shauna
Nice.
Shyamalan wrote a few episodes for that, and Salika also wrote some songs for that show.
Man, that's cool. Okay, Marley, come in with the facts. I love this conversation. So, yeah, we have some tea. Other fun facts about Trap. It was inspired by Operation Flagship, which was actually a real operation where law enforcement arrested 101 fugitives in a convention center, inviting them under the pretense of free NFL tickets for the Super Bowl.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that, to be honest, but that's
Right?
really
I didn't know
cool.
that either. Yeah, I had no idea. So that happened in 1985 and that was a sting operation. And yeah, that but that's so interesting and I'm like that's really fun. I love when real life events inspire movies, especially like I guess horror movies. It makes it kind of creepy, but I think that's like really cool, you know.
Hmm.
It kind of adds in that true crime element to it.
Yeah, it definitely also shows kind of like the creative side of of screenwriting, just because I'm sure M.
Mhm.
Night Shyamalan, like when he was trying to close like the script as he's writing it out, he's probably looking at like ideas of inspiration, and you said like Taylor Swift concert, then you've seen like this FBI case. I'm like, oh, what if I just kind of like merge this together? And then I've always kind of, I don't think this is actually true. I don't, it definitely isn't true, but I think that M. Night Shyamalan probably took his daughter to like a Beyonce concert and he was like, I don't get any of this. So then, and it's just the entire time M. Night is just trying to like uh, figure out like what's going on in the concert, like, oh, that security, like what's going on there, and just trying to entertain himself while his daughter's having fun. So,
Right, exactly, like he's jotting down notes during a Renaissance tour or something, or the Eras tour. Oh my goodness, that's, like, such a concept, and I'm glad you mentioned about, like, how ideas come to fruition. There's this really good book that I read called Still Like an Artist, and that talks about that, and so that's kind of, like, a really good testament to it, like, ideas basically don't come from, like, the air, they don't. They always are inspiration of something, everything's a remix. So, I kind of like how he took that sting operation as, like, heavy inspiration for that, and then putting in a concert setting with, like, a teen concert setting too of that, because his daughter, the main character's daughter in the movie, she's, like, in middle school too, so it's like, I just love that contrast. But yeah, Josh Hartnett, he plays the main character. And a little bit about that too. So he actually M. Night Shyamalan was trying to figure out who to cast as the lead, and Josh Hartnett went to Ireland for the production of The Watchers, and he had lunch with him, and the two talked about Oppenheimer and Black Mirror and living outside of Hollywood. And they just talked about being three fathers of girls, and he thought that Josh Hartnett was perfect for the role. You know, which I'm kind of like, I guess the fatherhood part, but I'm kind of like, how do you get serial killer vibes from that?
yeah, I don't know. I've never really had that interaction before when I'm talking to someone. I'm like, serial killer vibes. So like, but I don't know, if I was talking to M. Night Shyamalan and you thought I was a serial killer, I'm just like, no, what, that's kind of cool. At least I get to be in an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, right? And like, I don't know, when was like the last Josh Hartnett film? I feel like I haven't seen him in like anything in a while. So
Yeah,
like,
and I think a lot of that is kind of like when what you brought up about them like living outside of Hollywood. And that
mhm,
Shyamalan, like if you look at his films, pretty much most of his films are shot in South Philly. Like pretty much
mhm.
they're, I don't think hardly any of them except for really Last Airbender, but which we don't talk about that movie. But but they're they were shot outside of South Philly, and
Yeah.
that's probably one of the main reasons why I love M. Night Shyamalan, because you're working outside of the system and
Mhm.
kind of like doing your own thing and not letting like the man kind of like tell you you can't make this. Like M. Night Shyamalan self funds everything, like pretty much
Mhm.
everything. I think he's only had like like a helping hand from like Universal or Blumhouse, like for his most recent films. Other than that, everything is self-funded because he shoots very cheap, and then his movies make $100 million. So it's like If you have an
Yeah,
$8 million budget and it makes $100 million, then you basically funded your next 5 films. So I think that's
exactly.
great.
It's smart. And I think Shyamalan is from Philly, if I recall that correctly, too.
Yeah, he grew up there, so
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like, speaking of directors who have basically recorded or filmed things within their hometowns, I recently went through a John Waters rabbit hole, went down a John Waters rabbit hole, and actually all of John Waters films take place in Baltimore. So that's really cool too. So, I mean, like, it's relevant, but also not. But, well,
with
fun fact. Still have a few movies to go, though. But yeah, let's get into Trapped, though. Trap. I don't know why I keep saying trapped, but trap.
you've been trapped. Night
I have
Shyamalan
been
has
trapped.
trapped us.
Alrighty. So let's talk about the pros of the movie. Honestly, okay, I kind of want to step back a bit. So I was really excited for this movie when I saw the trailer on Instagram. Like, I
Mhm.
was like, ooh, Shyamalan's back again. And I'm like, this one looks so cool. Like, I mean, like, I would say, my opinion is his recent films have been hit or miss, but I had a good feeling about this one because whoever edited the trailer, like the team that edited the trailer, they did such a great job because they did something different. We kind of figured out what would stereotypically be the twist in the trailer. So I'm like, oh, there's going to be something else going down. So I was really excited to see this. When I watched the movie, I was like, I loved it. My eyes were glued. Like, I was not thinking about anything else. Like, I loved it. I had such a great time in the theater. What about you, Marley? What did you like it? What did you like about it?
No, I absolutely love this movie. I've seen this movie 3 times already. I think like some of the pros that I have is that one, it's beautifully shot. Like M. Night
Yeah.
Shyamalan is very he's very famous for kind of like picking out some of the best directors of photography like in Hollywood
Mhm.
right now. Like he's worked with Roger
Mhm.
Deakins in the past, and one of the DPs for It Follows that shot Split.
Yeah.
Like it was like his second film, and he shot Split after It Follows. So that's really great. And then for Trap,
Yeah.
he picked the director of photography for Challengers. Hold
Oh,
on, let me just
really?
let let me just tab a little bit. I don't want to butcher his name real quick because I'm probably going to butcher that DP. Sambuya Mukdeepram, the director of photographer for Trap. He also shot Challengers.
Those are beautiful films. Like, well, Challengers was
Hmm.
beautifully shot. Really good hands. And I think that was one of the reasons why I really like Trap because of the cinematography. And for a movie that's very much like a majority of it is in one location, you need you need a good cinematographer to help tell that story and make it dynamic. And
Hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah. Also, the songs are just bangers. Like I think that
Yeah.
also helps that it's really interesting to kind of like tell like this kind of thriller with the backdrop of like an actual artist like her like Salika Shyamalan. It's kind of
Mhm.
like Prince. Like I heard Shyamalan kind of like compare like this film to like
Purple
the
Rain.
the Purple Rain, or shoot, what's that other the Kid Cudi a music video that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh. I forgot, but the
Intergalactism.
only thing I could think of is Intergalactic. The
Yeah,
what?
Intergalactic.
Okay, cool, it was that. Okay. Because I was like, that's a really, really, really good movie. Actually, I do have a fun fact about the concert backdrop too.
Hmm.
I'm chock full of facts, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast because I was like, I want to share fun facts about movies and like nerd out about movies. The songs were performed live on stage as if it was a concert. So all of the extras, like the thousands upon thousands of extras, they weren't told about the premise of the movie, like, whatsoever. So they were just going to a concert. So the only people that knew about it was Josh Hartnett, of course, like some of the other main actors. Everyone else, the extras, they were just like, "Hey, I'm just going to a show."
That's
So
great. I love that.
And, Josh Hartnett actually recalled, that multiple extras were consoling him because they thought he was nervous or unaware that about the character he was playing. So, that's pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that immersive experience, like, especially when it comes to blurs the lines between fiction and reality, but also you get, like, honest reactions because it's like, okay, there you could kind of fake being excited for an artist, but at the same time, like oh, another thing too, another fun fact is all the extras learned the songs before they went to set. So they knew it was gonna be like a concert movie. So they would actually know the lyrics and stuff, so I think that's fun. But
I just
yeah,
like
I
the
mean, they were really jamming out to it.
I just like that just because M. Night Shyamalan is just casting those actors, and he's just like, if you're gonna be in this movie, you're gonna listen to my daughter's songs, and you're gonna like it. You're gonna memorize them, and you're gonna like it. So it's like, no, you
Right?
can't listen to anyone else. No, and who cares about Taylor Swift? Who cares about Beyonce? Beyonce. It's all about Salika Shyamalan. So
Right,
yeah,
exactly. Love that. Just call her Lady Raven and then we'll be good.
yeah, yeah. And then like I don't know, Trap has just been one of the most delightful movies that I've seen this year, just because it's one of the few movies that I saw that made me kind of, as soon as the movie ended, I wanted to just buy another ticket and walk right back in. And not a lot of movies that
That's
came
how
out
I
this
felt
year.
too. That's how I agree. Like, I would say so far, a lot of the movies I've seen has been kind of disappointing. And like, I agree, Marley. Like, you want to see this movie over and over again. I mean, is it the perfect film? Not necessarily, at least to my opinion, but it was so enjoyable. Like, I loved it.
And that's part of one of the charms of M. Night Shyamalan too. It's like even on his like even on his like misses, at least he's still swinging and he's like giving his full like swing. And
Mhm.
it kind of reminds me of a character from one of his movies, Signs, the Joaquin Phoenix character that played. He was like
Yeah.
a baseball player that he hit a lot of home runs, but he also struck out a lot,
Mhm.
which is honestly a really great character just because the themes of that character are really great. It's like just get as many as at bats as possible and get those swings in, just because you never know if something will be a home run or not. So it's like I don't know. I just love that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any cons for this movie?
Shoot. So you put me on the spot because I don't think I really have any cons. Is because I guess the only con that I have is it going in with too much expectations for this movie, because I know a lot of
Mhm.
people. I know that's kind of like a thing people have like in 2024 where they kind of have like too much expectations for a movie, but
Mhm.
and then like it kind of becomes a little disappointing. But part of the charm with Trap is that just go in expecting to have a good time, and just like this movie doesn't make sense most of the time, but if you just kind of like surrender yourself to the god that's M. Night Shyamalan, then you're gonna have a really great time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I don't
I
really have
agree.
any cons.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. I'm glad you said about things being silly. I would argue that upon his most recent films, and I'm using Old and Knock at the Cabin for reference, that this one is actually grounded in the most reality. I mean, like, okay, of course, Old is not really grounded in reality, and Knock at the Cabin, to a certain extent. I'm talking about as far as the context of the dialogue. Now, Shyamalan, he has some wild dialogue. Like, he makes the characters say the most craziest stuff in the world. And, like, sometimes the line delivery doesn't make any sense at all. And you're like, why are you making these actors deliver the lines like that? I'll give an example. The Happening has the most craziest lines of dialogue, the craziest plot points. It's like, what is going on? But for this one, I feel like there's actual like comedic timing and like the jokes are grounded in like realism. And it's intentionally funny and it's meant to be funny and it's not like it's not one of those cases where where I've experienced with a lot of Shyamalan movies where it's like, is this supposed to make me laugh or is it like so unintentional? Like this one, I feel like Shyamalan really played around with just making a fun movie and kind of making fun of himself too. And that's what I admired about that. Like there are some scenes that cracked me up so much. Like I was basically screaming in the theater laughing. It was so good. Like okay, there's this cameo. Okay, well actually I'm going to reveal this because we did talk about him earlier. There's a Kid Cudi cameo. I'm not going to say who he plays, but he has like, that scene is my favorite scene of probably all of Shyamalan's films. I'm so glad Kid Cudi is getting into acting because he is so talented, but the way he plays this character is just so brilliant
It
on so many levels. But anyway, I'm just gonna put that out there. So, yeah, I would say, like, if you need a good laugh, this movie is genuinely hilarious. Like, it is so freaking funny.
and I feel like the movie actually needs that, especially with
Yeah.
having such like a dark kind of like plot and subplots like going on. Like it's about a serial killer, so it kind of like wield like this comedic like elements into the film. I feel like it benefits like the dark story and all valid like criticisms around Shyamalan's kind of dialogue choices in most of his movies. I think that's pretty common for people to kind of have that criticism for him. But I would just like to just add on that like dialogue is a style. It's a certain style for every filmmaker. Just because one dialogue is hard to write, just because we all kind of like experience how people talk in different ways, how we process language, and like M Night Shyamalan is an Indian filmmaker, and this is just how he sees the world. And I appreciate that like his dialogue comes out in this way. And I know like a big criticism is that like as M Night Shyamalan is an Indian American like filmmaker, and he doesn't put like Indian Americans in his films except for himself, really. But I think he to be I well yeah, and his daughter, but I think he's honestly doing a lot of like Indian Americans favors just because like if you had them kind of like speaking these lines of dialogues, it would kind of make him look bad. And I feel like having
Yeah.
him cast white actors and have him say this lines of dialogue, it actually fits these kind of like cringy white actors to like say like these stilted kind of like lines of dialogue. I don't know. I think it's definitely like a creative choice, especially for something like The Happening. It like
Yeah.
The Happening is like I'm a defender of The Happening, to be honest, is because I think it's just a straight comedy. But
Mhm.
I haven't seen it. We haven't gotten to that movie just yet in the retrospective, so I'm like very excited to rewatch. But it's yeah, it's definitely a choice for the dialogues.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, watching Knock at the Cabin, there's this one line of dialogue. I think this woman was talking about her cat and the way she was talking about them. And, like, I mean, audience, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was cats because I was just like, what is this woman talking about? And, like, the way that Shyamalan had her say the lines or deliver the lines. It was so funny to me. So, I mean, I guess it kind of breaks up some of the tension because Knock at the Cabin was really intense. So I kind of get it in theory. Was I a fan of it? No, not really. But, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. You know what? Marley, thank you for giving me perspective because I really do. That's why I love having these conversations with other cinephiles. So we could just talk, and kind of like get a little bit more context.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love that. I'm trying to think another. What else
Well,
was I going to say?
to
Yeah.
add
Oh
on
yeah,
to
go
like
ahead, Marley.
to add on the whole dialogue thing, I actually remember that cat dialogue from Knock at the Cabin. I'm pretty sure like he was like M Night Shyamalan was just like at some white party and and that line just kind of like he heard someone say that. And he's like, I'm gonna put that in a movie. I don't know what movie, but I'm gonna put that in there because that's just hilarious. But because that's what happens to me, like when I'm writing like my potential like screenplays and stuff like that. I hear things that people say like in public, and I'm like, that sounds like something that someone would say, and that could get misinterpreted like in some way. But I don't know. Like that's just what screenwriters do. We listen to dialogues like in real life. So yeah.
That is so true. Like, you're so right about that. Like, when I actually wrote, like, screenplays and stuff, like, I took a lot of film classes and when I was in college too, and I was, like, essentially a film major too, and I was in college. My degree program was, like, really broad, but my major focus was film production. And, like, when we would have to write scripts and everything, I took a lot of my dialogue from conversations me and my friends would have, or conversations, like, I would hear at parties and whatnot. I actually wrote one of my projects that I did, I wrote an entire script based off of, like, one night me and my friends went out, and, like, it was pretty successful. A lot of people thought it was really funny, and I'm like, a lot of people were, like, asking me after class. They were like, "Where'd you come up with these lines?" I'm like, "Literally me and my friends." So, I think it makes, like, really genuine conversation dialogue and whatnot, especially when you have, like, we hear someone say something funny and whatnot. But that's always been my method if I'm writing something. Now, I haven't written a screenplay in a long time, but that was always my method is what I want to make people sound human, but you could also say like funny dialogue, but still making it sound human too. But that's just my style personally.
Hmm. Like you said, like that's your style, and M Night Shyamalan has a style as well. So it's like
Yeah, his
it
style
may
is
not.
just like, let me just make these people say the weirdest stuff ever. I think it kind of works with Old, personally, because it's such a trippy movie. And like there's some comical elements, but like some things, yeah, don't make sense, like Midsize Sedan. Like that name for a rapper.
And low key kind of racist
But
too. like I don't know. I'm just like that really bothered me too. But I feel like he redeemed himself with Trap, with the black actor that basically. Can we say spoilers for Trap? Can I mention this or?
okay, so podcast listeners, we're going to get into spoilers. So skip forward to the timestamp that I'm putting in the description. Eh.
Okay, so yeah, the merch table guy,
Yeah.
best character in the movie that basically aids Josh Hartnett's character in escaping. He basically tips him off, which is
Yes! And then, like, the post-credit scene or, like, the mid-credit scene is so funny. I actually really like how his character is written because you could go really into stereotypes with a black character. I mean, I'm not saying you should, but a lot of, like, non-black writers, directors, they have a hard time filming black well, not filming, but writing for black people and, like, directing them. My whole thing is like black people, we have like a funny cadence to how we speak like half the time. It's really hard to get that dialogue across, like that natural hilarious cadence that we have. But I think Shyamalan wrote it so well for this character. I don't know I don't know if he actually like his the actor, I don't know if he actually improv'd it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But if he didn't, I think Shyamalan did a great job with that actor or with that character rather.
I'm not sure if he improv'd it just because Shyamalan is known for pretty much scripting and storyboarding every single shot within a film. He painstakingly does that. But I think one of the things that makes that character relatable, I forget his name like in the movie, but that character is just a yapper. And
Yeah.
for a professional yapper like myself that has a podcast with over 100 episodes, I found that character incredibly relatable.
Yeah, right? And, like, I found him relatable on so many levels because it's like, you totally have met people like this in real life, like, people that are just yapping, get so excitable, people that are into true crime, and yeah, he was amazing. Now that we're still on spoilers, I would also like to mention about the twist, which I kind of had a little bit of a con about a little bit. Now, the twist is that his wife like, you think she's all unexpected and stuff. By the way, Allison Pill, she's one of my favorite that person actors. She is one of my favorite character actresses. I've been watching her literally since what oh my goodness, what's that movie? Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Mhm.
Love her,
I
love
I
her, love her. And but
I haven't
anyway,
seen it,
she
but
plays the wife in this. She's so good in this. But yeah, she's great in like almost every role she does. But anyway, yeah, she plays the wife, and the twist was cool because she figured out that he was a serial killer the entire time. That was like the biggest twist, and she basically like drugged him, and that's how she caught him. All that other stuff. I haven't had a moment where I was completely blown away from a Shyamalan twist in, like, a long time. It's been a long time. I don't know if you feel that, but I don't know.
well,
I kinda felt a little bit underwhelming. It was good, but I still felt underwhelmed.
I like it's interesting that you call it a twist because yeah, it's a twist because you find out that his wife was in on it from the whole time and orchestrated like this entire trap. But it's not a traditional Shyamalan twist, and you can kind of see, like, especially since I'm doing like this retrospective on my podcast, you can kind of see Shyamalan kind of like slowly kind of like getting out of like that Sixth Sense twist, because not really since the Sixth Sense has he had like a film where it had like this mind blowing twist where it's like, oh my god, I see dead people. I'll just mention that because it doesn't actually reveal the entire twist. But I kind of like this just because one, Allison Pill's great, and seeing
Mhm.
her kind of like reveal like the whole setup, and also Haley Mills that plays like the FBI agent that
Yeah.
is a part of like this entire like Parent Trap. Haley Mills, the star of the Parent Trap, and like
Yeah!
Shyamalan, right? Like mind
That is so
blow.
true! My goodness! Yeah. Oh my goodness, Marley, that's already gonna be a clip. You are so right. Oh my goodness, that's so true. But yeah, like yeah, no, I love that. Like, now thinking about it, he's kind of going away from, like, the crazy twist ending, and I think if he did, you know, retrospectively thinking, I think if he stuck with those big twist endings, they wouldn't be as exciting. And people are like, "Okay, what is the big twist ending? Oh, here it goes, boom." That type of thing. But everyone expects a twist ending with his films, and I think that's kind of fun too. It's almost like you are dissecting a project and kind of looking at like almost like how trailers were back in the day where like if you look at the original Star Wars trailer, they revealed the entire plot to you. But like and or just any trailer from, like, I would say the '90s and before that. Like, a lot of big trailers revealed everything, but it was like, "Okay, what's the journey getting to that?" And Trap really does feel like that because we knew, like, the guy was a serial killer, but it's like, "Okay, the suspense comes from, is he going to get through? Are people gonna find out about it?" And, like, is that really the twist or is it not? Like, I find that I think that's why what made this movie really exciting to me, and I won't reveal the ending, but I thought that was fun, and yeah, like, it's an enjoyable movie all around, and, I mean, my last question is how can this movie get improved? But now I'm kind of thinking about it, and I wouldn't say, like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's perfect for what it is, and I can't really kinda tie, like, anything that I was like, "Oh, I wish they changed this." Like, I really can't put my finger on anything.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I watched it because I watched it when it originally came out, and then like maybe a month or two after it came out, and then watched it like once on digital VOD. And I will admit if I were to change anything uh about like is it's stuff that happens in like the third act because I feel like it starts kind of like a little bit overstaying its welcome. Like I think I don't want to reveal too much about what I'm talking about, but if you since I said the third act, I think you might know a little bit like what I'm talking about because it's
Mhm.
like I kind of wanted to wrap up just a bit, but Shyamalan is always really great about keeping stuff. extremely tight and only including enough information for the audience to kind of like soak in, and that because that's when the twists really come in. Where it's like
Yeah.
he only reveals so much information for the audience to take in, and then at the end he's just like, here's some information I didn't let you know about, and then
Yeah.
like he doesn't reveal
Think,
everything
yeah, the
all at
third
once.
act, yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, the third act, yeah, does kind of overstay its welcome, but but just by a tad. Like, I would say, I think I would have shaved off 5 minutes of it, maybe, but I think it still worked out because he does, like, the cinematographer, or at least, like, the cinematographers he hires, they do a really great job at close-ups and showing the tension, and I think that scene, not to give anything away right now after we, like, talked about the end of
Yeah,
the movie,
yeah.
but for those that skipped forward, like, I just like that tension. And
I could talk about Trap all day.
the last question relating to Trap, who would you recommend this film to?
I would recommend this film to literally anyone, to be honest, because I feel like
Anyone? Anyone?
no, it's like I know it's like
So
you're a
you're,
little bit
like, a
shocked.
three-year-old, you should say, like, "Hey, three-year-old."
Well, okay, no, maybe the 3-year-old should probably still watch Bluey, but really, just any cinephile that like any person that like loves cinema, just because I feel like the whole reason why I love Shyamalan is that it goes back to like what I was saying from the beginning about Shyamalan. He's like kind of like the
Mhm,
last great filmmaker that is really making the films that he wants to make and not like based off of like a studio like algorithm, like a studio head basically said, "This is what's popular, so you got to make something around this." He's just
mhm,
making something that he thinks would be entertaining, and he's
mhm.
trying his best to make it entertaining. Like he's giving his full swing at it, and I feel like we have to support like creatives like that, just
I
because.
agree.
Yeah, but
Yeah, mhm. I think that was one thing that, I would have to say that I've been getting a lot of fatigue for the 2024 film year because everything is either a sequel, a prequel, or a remake of something. And I feel like I have to do homework before watching the movie, and I don't really like doing that. So I really liked Trap because I didn't have to do any homework at all.
yeah,
Like, it was different, it was fresh. Like, even though, yeah, it was inspired by a real life event and inspired by Silence of the Lambs, but again, keyword inspired, not blatant ripoff, not a remake, nothing like that. Like, we support original cinema in this house. Now, when I talk about a sequel or prequel or remake, yeah, because like new movies are trending, so whatever, I gotta deal with that. And there's some series that I like, but I would prefer an original project over any remake, sequel, prequel, anything like that.
exactly. Support indie cinema and just small budget cinema in general, just
Yes,
because.
and, like, that's the thing too, like, I think more audiences need to really seek out these small budget cinema. If you are getting modern cinema fatigue, there's some good movies out there, like, go on Film Talk. Like, if you are not on Film Talk, which would be very surprising because I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're most likely on Film Talk, but if you're not, if you have if your podcast algorithm, you happen to find this podcast, go on Film Talk, follow Marley, follow any of my other mutuals that talk about film who will
You're
be
so
on
kind.
this podcast. Thank you. Who will be on this podcast, and they will give you some fire recommendations for unique cinema. I guarantee it. Yeah.
I'm
But
a
I think
little shocked.
yeah, but I think that's a good way to end the podcast episode. So, yeah, Marley, do you have any new projects or anything you want to plug?
Well, I always say at the end of every podcast that I'm on, like, including my own, if people aren't annoyed with me already, you can go ahead and follow me pretty much everywhere on social media with the username at MarleyLovesFilm. I'm on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, as Megan aforementioned, and you can also listen to my podcast, the Real Lovers Podcast, where I mentioned at the start of this podcast we're doing an M Night Shyamalan retrospective series, and then we're also covering all of the movies in the Letterboxd Top 250 And yeah, I don't know when this episode's gonna when this episode's gonna post, but by then I would have posted the Everything Everywhere All at Once discussion that I had with Tyler Makes Films from TikTok, who's also a really great creator that you should follow. So yeah, thank you, Megan. This has been fun.
Yes, it has been super fun, Marley. And yeah, you guys can follow me at Megan's World. That is Meaganz World. I'm on TikTok, Letterbox, and Threads, and Instagram. So yeah, this has been such a great episode. And yeah, keep watching movies, y'all. Support indie film.